first started this fashion brand, I was totally new. And even though I did like silicon chip design and I know how to manufacture the really fundamental base of silicon photonic chips, it was very different to get into the fashion industry, knowing how do I convert these ideas, my sketches, and the samples that I made by hand into something that's scalable and repeatable. And working with manufacturer, it was so much back and forth. Yeah, that's why I had, when you asked if every single piece was custom, my very beginning it wasn't, because I had to really learn how the industry works. So I had to do a batch order, and there was so much changes and difficulties. Like you had to really think about how to lay out the fabric to reserve weight, to reduce waste. So you need to have all these pattern pieces that are laid out on a piece of rectangle as closely as possible without all these areas that are basically waste. So I also learned how to even make other things, accessories, using those kind of, what's it called, swatches. So
cool.
Yeah. But one cool thing, one really helpful thing about digital printing is that I can even not only print the graphics on fabric, I can also print the pattern itself directly onto the fabric. So
cool.
Yeah. So I don't even need paper patterns anymore. I don't have to transfer paper onto fabric because the fabric itself already has the pattern. I just directly cut the fabrics.
Nice. That is super cool. Wow. Yeah, that hadn't even occurred to me that you could really reduce the setup time, essentially. Yeah.
It definitely does. I really want to scale this up because right now I think everything I do at Art by Physicists is pretty much the cutting edge of every single process for fashion. And I don't see other brands doing this. Like from design to manufacturing, the whole process, I figured out at the small scale how to reduce waste to the minimum and how to speed up the efficiency to the maximum.
Yeah.
And also ways to like even digitally laser cut the fabric. So
I was going to ask about that.
After you print, you don't even have to get it to a human hand to cut it. You just feed it through a laser cutter and cut the fabrics out. So then you don't even maybe not having to print the layout in the first place. And there's so many. Yeah.
Let me ask a question about the laser cutters that are like specifically built for fabrics. Because like my first thought was like, man, you would have to have a really giant bed in order to cut out these big things. But do they just like unroll it and just basically have a line that's being cut and then do it that way? Or do they have to lay it out on a big bed and cut them flat?
Yeah, the factories that do use these machines need a very big bed.
Okay.
So we don't have a good solution for small like home microfactory. It's not something like a sewing machine anyone can buy for the home.
Yeah.
So that is one developing area that some factory machine leaders are building, like automated laser cutting and automated printing. And those are just starting. So if all factories start to adopt that, they can really reduce so much waste and time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the software is also new. The software is still on the process of getting more designers to learn to use. So traditional, most schools are still teaching students how to do the paper pattern and how to do the draping on the mannequin. So it's all physical. There's also the perception that designers don't really trust simulation, but after I tried all these things, I really do trust it.
Cool.
So, yeah.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome to hear. And I'm sure that's also, the simulations have gotten better, right? Over time. I'm sure that when they first started simulating, probably wasn't very good, but
Yeah, it took a few years.
Yeah.
It's really gotten to the point that I can even generate personalized avatar and then simulate these fabrics onto the avatar directly. So the grading, so interesting thing is also
Oh,
the grading you still have to do it manually. You have to adjust it. You have to tell the software how much you want to grade based on your base pattern.
hmm. And
But
for
I
people
think
who
that
aren't familiar with textiles, grading means how you adjust
mm,
it for different sizes.
for different sizes, yeah.
Yeah.
So traditionally, all these fixed brands are just doing, say, XS, S, medium, large. Like they don't
Yeah.
fit it to different people. They just make those standard. But there's
Yeah.
really no standard. Nobody's body is the same.
Yeah.
So the software really help you get to different people, different body shapes even. So the different grading points would be adjusted very differently based on the measurements.
Yeah. Very
And
cool.
this still needs to have more adoption. More designers need to learn how to use this.
Yeah, I'm wondering like if this software can also be used for like knitwear designers, because I mean the process of constructing the garment is obviously a lot different, but you're still designing to
Mhm.
various shapes, and that's been a really it's been a really big topic in the hand knitting industry for the last few years, has been size inclusiveness of patterns, because it's the same
Yeah.
thing where oftentimes, you know, design like yarn brands would put out like these collections, these pattern collections based upon their yarn, and they would have, you know, like 3 or 4 sizes, and the largest one would still be pretty small, you know. And
Yeah.
so, and there was
Yeah.
like no variance for any kind of like individual body shape. And now a lot of designers are just putting a lot more time to expand their sizing ranges and to write notes in their pattern for like, this is how you might adjust it if, you know, you need a bigger armhole, or, you know, you need
Mhm.
whatever, like
Mhm.
less material around the waist.
Yeah.
And it's really been nice to
Yeah.
see. But yeah, I wonder if that software would be useful for simulating like
Yes.
kind of the general size and shape of a finished knit garment as well. Hmm.
Yeah, so for knitting, it will be a different type of software. So
Yeah.
there are specific knitting software and machine that you can do actually streamlined. Once you simulate there, it automatically gets sent to the machine and just start knitting in 3 dimensions. There's no cut and sew, and they can just
Yeah.
produce the garments right there for you. There
Cool.
are some factories doing that, not a lot, but it's still a niche. Is also trying to get consumers to know that it is available. So
Yeah.
some brands are starting to do that. I think I've seen Ralph Lauren having experiment there, and there are limitations. You can't knit anything. There's specific types of stitches and specific patterns and designs that the machine is capable of doing.
Mhm.
So there needs to be some types of templating and standardizing. You
Mhm.
can't be crazy with your design.
Yeah.
So yeah. So yeah, there's still a lot of the human errors and manual labor that's involved. But I think at a small scale, I'm able to figure out how to do this process all from a technological standpoint. But for the entire industry to adopt something efficient and environmental friendly, more automation has to be done.
Yeah.
So like I'm very small business, so I can take people's measurement, I can adjust the patterns for them. But for larger businesses, they have to really have automation.
Mhm.
Otherwise, they can't be handling all these orders coming in. Everyone has a different size, to have to manually fix things. That's not
Yeah.
scalable.
I feel like
Yeah.
we're really, really close to the future that I want, which is that you just get a full body scan done every now and then, and
Hmm.
it's in some sort of standard format that you just then
Hmm.
upload to the website that you want to buy your clothes from, and
Yeah.
there then you know you have it. Like that is
Yeah.
the future I
Yeah.
want. And I want the same thing for shoes as well, because like shoes
Yep.
are really hard to fit. And
Yeah.
yeah, I will be very excited to live in that future.